All right, we're going to start with basically the definitions and types of economics. There are two schools of economics. You have microeconomics and macroeconomics. When you look at microeconomics, it's kind of like looking through a microscope. You're taking something larger and only looking at a very small part of it. So microeconomics looks at the smaller picture, focuses on the basic theories of supply and demand. It's more concerned with individual buyers and sellers and how they interact along with the factors that influence the choices of these buyers and sellers. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, looks at the big picture, focuses more on the national economy as a whole. When we get into macroeconomics, we're going to look at the things like the strength of a nation's economy. We're going to look at gross domestic product, which is a measure of our economy. We'll look at unemployment for the United States. We'll look at inflation and recession. So it's big picture. Microeconomics we're going to look at decisions that you as an individual make or as an individual business makes. Economics itself is the study of scarcity. Resources are limited. And we know this. Oil is limited. Time is limited. Money is limited. But our needs, which are things that are essential for survival, and our wants, which are those things that we desire but are not necessary for survival, are unlimited. What we want and need exceeds the amount of resources that we have to make all those things. And so people satisfy their needs and wants with goods and services. And a good is just a physical object that someone produces, and a service is an action or an activity that one person performs for another. So when you hire a lawyer or an accountant or a housekeeper, that's a service. When you go out to dinner, your waitress or your waiter, that they are providing you a service as opposed to you going and buying a physical object at Walmart or somewhere like that. Scarcity. This is the fundamental piece of the economic puzzle. You have to understand this idea of scarcity. Economics builds upon itself, and so this is not a subject where you can learn the material for one chapter and then let it go. We will be talking about scarcity and a lot of these things for the rest of the semester. They build upon each other. I've already said that people's wants and needs are unlimited. When one of our wants is satisfied, something else comes along that we want. But goods and services are limited. It's very, very important that you understand the fact that limited amounts of goods and services are available to meet our unlimited wants, and that is what scarcity is. So there are two sides to scarcity, this idea that we want and need more things than we have resources to meet those needs. Because scarcity exists, it requires us to make choices. A lot of people want to use the term scarcity and shortage interchangeable. We can eliminate a shortage, and we'll talk about shortages when we get to supply and demand. But a shortage is just when we want more than what producers are willing to produce. So I don't want you to think of this as a shortage. Scarcity exists for everyone. There are not enough resources to provide societies with everything because our resources are scarce. Scarce resources, how are we going to use these to provide the products that we want? And so we have what are called entrepreneurs, and these are people who decide how we're going to take these scarce resources and combine them to create new goods and services. In exchange for profits, the entrepreneur is willing to take a risk. They start the new businesses, they develop new ideas, create new industries, and all of this fuels economic growth. So we're going to talk about the three factors of production, sometimes known as productive resources, that the entrepreneur brings together to create something of value. And some textbooks will say there are 4 factors of production, calling the entrepreneur a factor. But the entrepreneur, once again, is someone who is going to bring these productive resources together. So if you just think of it in terms of what is it that we need to have in order to make something. So one of the things is land, sometimes called natural resources, and these are used to produce goods and services. So if you're a farmer, you need fertile land. We use coal and water and oil and all kinds of different natural resources, lumber, in order to produce something else. Labor is the second factor of production, sometimes called human resource, and this is people's efforts that they devote to a task in which they are paid. You have teachers and doctors, factory workers, artists. All of these use their human resource, their labor, and they get paid in exchange for that to help create something else. And then the third factor of production is capital. Capital itself is any man-made resource used to produce something else. And there are two different types of capital. You have physical capital and human capital. Physical is sometimes called a capital good or physical capital, and these are the actual machines, the tools, the buildings that are used to produce another good or service. And then human capital, this is the knowledge and skills that a worker gains through education and experience. And there are a few benefits of capital, and this is very, very important. Anytime that you can invest in tools and machines, a lot of times that reduces the time to produce something, and so it increases productivity. So you have extra time. You can produce the same amount of goods at, in less time. More knowledge. The more knowledge and expertise a worker has, the more productive they become. And so finally, increased productivity is a benefit of capital, and obviously that is the ultimate goal. You want your society, your business, or as an individual to be as productive as you possibly can.